Hello, everybody. I'm sure you can already tell, but I am a person who likes to talk about controversy or opinions that I may not agree with too much and try to give my side of the story and my opinions on what's going on. Today's video, we're going to be covering yet again another hot topic in the community, but this isn't so much a complaint as it is a brutal comparison you never want to see any game receive. Ladies and gentlemen, I am of course talking about the comparison some people in the community have been making from Marathon to Concord. If you do not know, Concord was a 2024 multiplayer first-person hero shooter that was published by Sony and released on the PlayStation 5 and Windows. This was supposed to be a competitor, a brand new hero shooter on the scene to fight against the likes of Overwatch 2 for that classic kind of support, damage, tank style hero shooter. If you're also aware, Concord pretty much got shut off 2 weeks after launch. The game did so poorly, the developers and Sony had to pull the plug, take it off the market, refund the purchases, and take the game back to the drawing board. Now, we're not sure if we've seen the end of Concord. It still may be coming back as a free-to-play hero shooter with some graphical redesigns, maybe even a brand new name just to disassociate itself from the Concord name. But what you pretty much have to know is that Concord came out. It targeted a very active, popular genre as hero shooters. It had a premium price tag, but the entire game got shut down just a little bit after 2 weeks of launch because there was just no one playing the game. When people look at Marathon and make the comparison over to Concord, there is a lot of little things you are missing on that is going to contribute to the success of Marathon that it did not contribute to the success of Concord. The first thing I want to talk about more specifically is the genre. Concord is a hero shooter. That's pretty much it. It is a Overwatch clone, while Marathon is a arcade extraction shooter, which is not a genre that is currently out there in the market. But let's go beyond just arcade extraction shooters and into the entire overall genre of extraction shooters by themselves. When you look at an extraction shooter, the two names that probably come to your mind are Tarkov and Hunt. These two games, Tarkov, for example, probably the biggest extraction shooter out in the market, is limited exclusively to PC. That is a really big deal when you're looking at a game like Marathon, which is an extraction shooter that is coming out on console. Console players are heavily neglected in the extraction shooter scene, and Marathon is going to be one of the first extraction shooters to hit console with the support of a AAA studio as well as a major publisher like Sony. Marathon being an extraction shooter is going to be one of those things that even if the game was absolutely terrible and you might not even be interested in it yourself, a lot of people on the console side are going to try just because they never really had access to an extraction shooter quite like this on the console platform. Another big comparison I want to make is simply who is making these games, and that is honestly going to be a big factor as well. If you don't know, Concord was made by Firewalk Studios, which was acquired by Sony in 2023 and then shut down in October 2024. Now, if you don't know what Firewalk Studios is, that's fine. I don't think anyone really knows what Firewalk Studios is. As far as I know from the little research I did, Concord is actually the first game that Firewalk Studio pushed out. If I'm incorrect about that, sorry. I tried looking it up and I couldn't find their releases or their portfolio, so all I really know of is Concord. But you really don't know the name of their studio, which, as little as that sounds, actually has a big impact. For example, I don't think Marathon would be getting the hate it does if it wasn't developed by Bungie. Just having a certain name behind your game is a very, very powerful thing, especially when it comes to a developer that hasn't dropped a new IP in the past 10 years. Bungie, for 10 years now, have been solely working off Destiny, and of course Destiny 2, but ever since Destiny has become a thing, they have not dropped a single new IP or even a sequel or a game outside of the Destiny name. Now, of course, Marathon isn't a brand new IP. There is the original old school trilogy that came out way back in the day, but it is essentially a new game, a new style, in the sense that old school Marathon was never an extraction shooter, but new Marathon is. So sorry if I called it a new IP. You know, I don't mean it's a new IP. It's just a new title that Bungie has been working on for quite some time. When people see a developer that has not dropped a new title in years, as well as just a very well-known developer as Bungie, considering they made Halo, Destiny, the original Marathon, and now the new Marathon, people are going to be interested to try the game. Even if you look at the Destiny community, I've received some comments on my videos from Destiny players saying they've never played an extraction shooter, but they are excited to try Marathon. And the reason for that being is that people do have a connection to the developers that they frequent. Well, I should say some people. Bungie is known for Halo, old school Marathon, and Destiny. These games have been around for over 20 years now and have been able to manifest a good fan base for the company and for the developers. Even if you never played a PvP game, an extraction shooter, you don't like COD, you still might be picking up Marathon simply for the fact that Bungie is the team behind it and you've appreciated their work before. The final point I want to make in this video regarding the Concord to Marathon comparison is that there is one big point I think people are also missing, and that is Bungie is not really known to give up. With Sony in the mix, maybe things can change. But Bungie has had their back against the wall multiple times, and every time things are in the worst for them, they're at their absolute bottom of the pit they can be, is when Bungie comes alive and does some of the best work they ever do. I fully believe that if this game launched in a poor state, we would not see it get removed after 2 weeks. We would not see it get dislisted and refunded. We would not see a giant push into free-to-play within the first couple of months. Bungie is the kind of studio that if the game's not doing well, just like Destiny and Destiny 2, for example, when Destiny 2 transitioned into the Taken King, that was a monumentous moment for the game. And same with Destiny 2 getting Forsaken, another giant moment for the game that only was possible because they were feeling so pressured to make the best content they could. Marathon, if, like I said, they start off poor, I really do believe Bungie, with their team that's dedicated to Marathon, I'd like to point that out, they are not the same team as the people working on Destiny 2, will clutch. They will come through, update the game as needed, listen to feedbacks and suggestions from the community to see what they need to push into, and develop the content and fixes needed in order to try to save the game. Now, of course, I'm not saying this game needs to be saved. I'm just saying if the initial community reception to launch is mostly negative and the player base drops off because of it, Bungie will act. They will take the time and effort to fix the issues that are plaguing the game. They are not like Firewall Studio or some other developers that if a game launches in a poor state, they cut the plug and start working on the next one. Looking at you, Suicide Squad. Man, you were supposed to be a pretty fun game. I actually enjoyed it. That's going to give me a lot of dislikes. I know nobody liked that game. It was pretty fun. It was a little third-person co-op game. It was pretty great. But that's an example of a game that did not do well, and the development studios and the publishers decided to cut support for that game just after a couple of months. Bungie is not like Firewall Studio. Bungie has been here for a long time. Sony has invested a ton of money into Bungie to do the right things for their games, and I don't think Bungie is trying to lose their workforce or get taken over by Sony or anything weird like that, which is just, me just saying random things. I don't know what their contract actually entails. But to be an optimist, I think this game's going to launch in a pretty okay state. It's not going to have a ton of content, as most live service games do at launch, but I think the actual gameplay and moment-to-moment gunplay is going to be very strong. I do think if the game launches in a bad position, you do not need to worry about a Concord situation. I think Bungie has enough players to get the game a strong initial player base. I think Bungie knows how to fix things well enough to bring back players if the game messes up at launch. And I think Bungie knows how to produce enough content to keep players that actually enjoy the game coming back for a nice, fresh palette of content every now and again. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. That's all I have for you. If you haven't already, please drop a like, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next marathon video.